Well, an historic White House meeting on Monday between President Joe Biden and UAE President Mohamed bin Zayed, underscoring what the UAE describes as a 360-degree partnership between the two nations. Well, traditionally rooted in defence and security, today the US-UAE partnership is focused squarely on the global tech race. The UAE is investing billions of dollars in advanced technologies and the clean energy required to power AI. And much of that investment is in partnership with US companies, including Microsoft and AI giant NVIDIA. Well, the two countries pledged to work together to ensure the responsible deployment of advanced tech as both look to scale up the necessary infrastructure to take a lead in what you could describe as a new geotech era. While AI took centre stage at the meeting, the volatile geopolitical landscape was also discussed, with President Biden naming the UAE a major defence partner, and Vice President Harris also at the meeting, highlighting the evolving relationship between the two on X, writing, "We are also working to strengthen regional stability and address the grave humanitarian crises in Gaza and Sudan." Well, I spoke to Anwar Gargash, diplomatic advisor to the president, who is travelling in the US with him, to get the UAE's perspective on this escalation in the region and discuss, beyond the considerable ongoing humanitarian effort by the UAE in Gaza, what else the UAE can or will offer in terms of support for the region now and in the future. Have a listen.
We see de-escalation right now as the main goal. De-escalation in Gaza, de-escalation in the West Bank, de-escalation in Lebanon. The events of the last 48 hours have been disturbing and have been very concerning, and our concerns, together with the rest of the world, of an expanded war remain a priority. The history of conflict in the region has shown us that you cannot settle big differences, historical differences, through conflict. And the UAE believes that maximalist positions from all parties, the Israeli party, some of the Arab non-state actors, are really leading the area to more and more conflicts. In parallel to the de-escalation, we are also emerging as a major believer and a major player in terms of addressing the humanitarian needs. Unfortunately, every crisis comes at a huge humanitarian cost. And what you are seeing really in Gaza is heart-wrenching. We think that maximalist views are hindering consensus on a day after, and we're worried. Without a clear day after, any attempt really at a ceasefire might appear futile.
A recent tweet by the UAE foreign minister was pretty definitive. The UAE would not play any role in the day after in Gaza unless a Palestinian state is established. Is a Palestinian state a viable path towards a Palestinian state, even viable in narrative, in conversation? Is it a reality at this point?
What we are saying is that longer term, clearly, the policy of containment has failed. The idea basically of trying to sort of circumnavigate the Palestinian issue has led to these continued crises. We really have to address these issues. As much as we have to address Israel's right to exist and to security, we also have to address the legitimate right of the Palestinians to a state. Unfortunately, what we are seeing there is an example of a locomotive that is being led by the most extreme on both parties. Whether it is non-government organizations on the Arab side, or such as Hezbollah and Hamas, or the right wing that we are seeing today in Israel, dictating and influencing policy. And we do really need to go back to the center on both sides, the Arab side and the Israeli side. The security of the region, the livelihood of future generations and their expectations for the region really depend on a policy that goes beyond containment.
As the war continues, does UAE see this impacting the Abraham Accords and further such accords around the region?
Well, I'm not going to speak about further such accords, but I will definitely come and say that the Abraham Accord is a strategic decision by the UAE. It has allowed us to play and continue to play a role in talking to all parties and spectrums of Israeli politicians. You will have ups and downs in terms of the the surrounding environment, but the accords remain, in my opinion, a major component really of a different architecture for the region, architecture based on a greater communication, stability, and I would say longer-term prosperity also.
We live in an era of real geopolitical volatility, not least in the Middle East. We also do live in what seems to be a new era of geoeconomics and increasingly geotech. Geopolitics, geoeconomics, geotech. What role does the UAE see itself playing?
The two pillars of our policy are stability and prosperity. On the national level, they are concerned about UAE stability and UAE prosperity. But beyond the national level, I think we also have a responsibility towards regional stability and regional prosperity. We're a firm believer that on the one hand, we want to work on the prosperity of the UAE, but we also want a spillover effect, a cascading effect. You can't prosper alone. You have to prosper collectively. The UAE is a trailblazer, but also I think we have a mindset where we see cooperation as the future, not competition.
For some time, your country has sought deeper regional security assurances from the United States. Following the meeting with President Biden, he posted on X, and I quote, "I spoke with the UAE president about carrying our nation's relationship forward, including the UAE becoming a major defense partner of the United States."
The visit of His Highness the President was mostly and almost exclusively about the future. It was about the economy, it's about technology, and about the UAE's bid to partner in what is the technology of the future, partner and invest and so on and so forth. And these meetings will always cover some regional issues, especially looking at the sort of environment that we see today. I think the U.S. announcement in this area and understanding that the UAE and India have that designation is again another sign of a huge trust in the UAE by Washington. From a practical point of view, it will mean a lot of things in terms of procurement, in terms of training and so on and so forth, and in terms of how that relationship is being seen by people who actually manage that relationship in the defense area. But I think the political signal here is extremely important, a signal of trust, a signal of a partnership that has really gone through a lot of difficult tests and has emerged, even stronger.
The diplomatic advisor to the UAE President, Anwar Gargash, speaking to me from New York just after the show yesterday.